Hi, Evil Boris here. Today I thought I would take a look at some of the new features for photography as part of iOS 11. So iOS 11 is going to become available to everybody. I think it's on September the 19th, so if you've got a compatible phone, presumably going to be iPhone 6, maybe iPhone 5S upwards, you'll be able to use this going forwards. Now, Apple also talked about some new camera features on the new phones, on the iPhone 8 and the iPhone X. But we're going to just be talking about the features that we're going to get in the phones we already have. So I'm using an iPhone 7 Plus. Let's have a look at my photo album. So I've got together a bunch of photos here that I've taken just on my phone because we're going to be having a look at the live photos. So we've got ones from Venice, we've got some from Northampton near where I live, we've got some in Japan, Shibuya, and we've got some in London as well. So we're going to have a look at some of these things and where you might use some of these effects, and just generally have a look at some of the cool new stuff. So, live photos we've had for a couple of years. I think those were introduced in iPhone 6. A live photo takes a little video at the same time as you've taken your photo, about 2 seconds either side of you pressing the actual button. So we get a little video snapshot in time, and it's a really nice way to look at your photo. So I commonly, as I'm going around taking my photos on my SLR camera, I quite often take a picture at the same time on my phone to try and capture the feel a little bit more of where I am, just beyond that of a static image. Just for myself, really, these ones. So mostly these are ones that I've taken just for myself, or I've taken when I haven't had my proper camera with me. So let's have a look at some of the things we'll be familiar with. So let's go to my cat there. So we'll know that with live photos, it records the video. If you don't know this, it actually records a little bit of sound. So if you're using one of the phones with the extra touchscreen, I can't think what it's called, Force Touch, where you can press the screen, pressure sensitive screen. You can actually hold in the screen, it'll actually play back the full snapshot that it's taken with sound as well, so you can capture some kind of atmosphere of where you are as well. Some atmosphere of wind in that one, and talking. You hear a little bit of water. Anyway, live photos, really nice. Mostly pointless, but nice nonetheless. So we're going to have a look at some of the things I've added in which make this nicer, or maybe slightly less pointless, whichever way you want to look at it. I mean, I really like them. That's not me being disparaging. I really like the live photos. But previously, I think there's just been somewhat of a bullet point on the features of an iPhone. So let's have a look at some of the features you might be familiar with from other apps. So if you're a Snapchat user, or you use Instagram stories or Facebook stories or whatever, Boomerang, you'll be used to things like the bounce or boomerang effect. So I'll tell you what I've done there. You can swipe up on the photo and you'll see some of the new effects. We've got loop, bounce and long exposure. So let's have a look at bounce. This will be the most common one you'll be used to seeing. So that moves the photo or the video back and forth like so. Let's find another one to do that with that's obvious what's going on. There we go, my cat. Just going to calculate it. Let's do a bounce. There he is. Looks like he's watching table tennis. Or maybe we'll do it to this one of him yawning. So we've got that kind of back and forth, endless repeating. There we are. Inside of his mouth. Don't know what he was doing there. So we've got the bounce effect that we've seen there. Let's use the loop effect on this picture of the Eiffel Tower. There we go. So that works really, really well. Looks like it's going round and round forever and ever and ever. If you look down here on the cars, we can also see them looping. It's really, really nice little effect. You can do the same thing to any of these. Let's have a look at this picture in Venice. That's a loop. There we are. So we can apply these to the pictures one by one as you take them. I'd like to think in future actually Apple will give us the option to set what's going to be the default setting for the photos, so we don't have to change them. I really like the loop as a default one. A lot of the pictures I take work quite well with the loop. Or maybe the bounce. But what you'll see is as you look at these photos, those settings that you've applied now become permanently attached to that photo, just as the normal live photo did. And as you scroll through your photos and have a look at some of your memories, you'll see them then play. It's just really, really nice, really neat little touch. And if we hold the screen, we get the original live image, I think. No, maybe not. Nope. I thought we did. Let's have a look at another one. We do on that one. Let's have a look at a loop there. Let's have a fireplace. There we go. So the fire's going to just go forever. Yeah, there we go. Anyway, we can do the loop, we can do the bounce. Those are really nice. We can do these to lots of things. Loop works really well. It seems to use some kind of intelligent looping as well. So here's a picture from a train. If I pick loop on this one, we get an endless train journey. There we go. It's really smart. You can't really tell that's happening. That's really cool. Here's one of some Japanese food, some miso soup. Stick that on a loop. We can see that it'll zoom in a little bit because that's it applying some kind of image stabilization to the video, and then it's looping. So it looks like I've got a nice steaming cup of miso soup that's going to be warm forever. So we're going to have a look at some of the other effects. So the kind of big one for me is the other effect that we saw there called long exposure. So long exposure we will normally do with a camera where we can set the shutter speed. So we can actually keep the camera taking a photo, not just for a snap second, 100th of a second or 1/4000th of a second. We can tell the camera to take that photo over a second or 4 seconds or 20 seconds. That's what we'd normally do with the camera. And this means that we capture any motion that's happening at the same time as that picture is being taken. So whether that's people walking past, whether that's water moving, whether that's your hand shaking in the image, which is why we get blurry pictures. But we can actually do this now in software. So it's taking the time that it's recorded a video, and it will actually calculate a long exposure, a simulated long exposure. You see it there working out where the motion is. That's a pretty neat thing. That's got lots of uses. You can do this in software with things like Photoshop, and there's other pieces of software that do it from videos or from multiple photos. But to have this single button press that you use on your iPhone, and you can retrospectively apply it to an old picture, it's really, really great. And I really, really love this thing. And I really love this aspect of technology and how it's making our photo better. So there's the picture there we saw of Venice. If I let go of the screen, you'll see it calculate the long exposure on the water. And it smooths it off and makes it even more reflective because it's captured all the waves and it's kind of blurred those all into one. That's really cool. What's really cool about doing it in this way through software is that we can take a normal picture just with one press of the button, and we don't need any additional hardware. We don't need to use tripods. We don't need to use neutral density filters to be able to force the camera to take a photo in such bright light. So we can actually take long exposure images during the daytime, which is usually much more time consuming or labor intensive, both as you take the image or as you have to process it separately in Photoshop or something like that. So long exposure is a really, really cool one. Another time you might use a long exposure is if you've got a shot that's perhaps a little bit grainy. This isn't a great example. I think my hand was maybe moving a little bit as I've taken this one. Let's have a look. Okay. So we can actually see that red and yellow hot air balloon is moving a little bit. So when it's created long exposure, that's been smudged a little bit. But the sky is relatively free of noise. It's less grainy than it would have been normally. So we can actually use this for other things as well to improve our picture quality. I actually think this photo is probably going to look better on a loop or a bounce or something like that. So I'm just going to pop it on a bounce. Looks a bit weird. You can see the fire going down. Let's put that on a loop instead. There we go. So that looks really good. So again, some more long exposures, just showing you some more ones based around water. There we go. Other times you might want to use it, so let's have a look at this one here. So for some reason I've taken a picture here, and as I've taken a picture, this bus has ended up right in the middle of it. Perhaps there was something really interesting behind that I was trying to take a picture of. I don't think there is, but it's a good example of how we can use it. Maybe if we apply the long exposure, what you'll see here is it will take all the information from the video, combine it into one, and we can actually see it's kind of got rid of some of that bus. And on less pronounced images, such as ones with people, let's have a look at this one here. Here's one just I took in a reflection. We can see me looking dumpy. That is the reflection that's causing that more than anything. Some people there in the background. Anything that's moving is going to exist across multiple frames, and they're going to be blurred out. So I'm going to click long exposure, and I'm standing still. Everything in the picture is still because I'm holding my hand still, and it's blurred the other things out. So we can use this in some really interesting ways to be able to either kind of remove things that we don't want in the image. So maybe there are lots of birds flying around in a particular scene that we think would look better without it, or maybe there are again, somebody's just walked into shot just as you've taken your picture. Again, really nice way just to be able to blur them out in a really easy way. Perhaps you want to use the long exposure not to hide things, but you actually want to use it to show something. So we've obviously captured a video here of a crowd of people, or a live photo of a crowd of people at this book fair. But maybe rather than have these people moving around, or sorry, not moving around, totally static, maybe I'm going to capture some of that movement in an actual long exposure. So let's run the calculation there. So we can see a bit of movement now, people are moving around. So you can use it creatively to kind of show that there's movement, that things are happening in the picture, if that's what you wanted to show. There's another one here. So some people playing basketball, some buildings in the background. Let's actually play the video for you. They're there. If they're on a loop, you can see the looping happening there. Some ghost children. Oh, come back. I didn't mean to scroll that. Or the bounce. I mean, they're bouncing a ball anyway. There we go. If we do long exposure, that's going to actually blur those people and show them moving. So we capture something that's happening. That's not a great shot because you can't really see what is happening. But again, maybe they aren't the actual subject of this photo, which they kind of were, but it shows the point. Let's have a look at some other ones. So here's a picture in Shibuya in Japan, or in Tokyo in Japan. Rainy day on a crossing. On a loop, we can see how they would look. Looks alright, doesn't look great. Or on a bounce, we're not going to have that effect there. We're going to have this effect instead. I actually think that one's much cooler. But another thing we can use, again, long exposure. So you can actually see the preview there. Let's have a look at it full screen. There we are. So there's a long exposure preview. So you can see those people moving. It's quite abstract, that one, but we can, again, use this creatively to create different kinds of images. And again, the way the iPhone does it, taking it from the video, means it's always preserved the original file. So I can see the video. If I let go of my finger now, you can see it calculating it and applying the filter. So look at this one. So there's some people over here. Now, actually something interesting is happening here. So this is a good way of maybe removing certain things. I didn't mean to take a picture of these people, but I just like the fact there was this one little pink blossom tree next to these very modern buildings. But if we put those guys on a long exposure, oh, come on, come back. I can't get back to where I want to be. Right, swipe up, there we go. Anything that's still in the photo is going to remain still. If my hands were still, it will stay very clear as well. And anything that is totally still is going to stay still. So we can see the guy taking the photo there of his friend in front of the tree. The tree must be blowing in the wind a little bit, so it's a little bit blurry. But those people that were walking past are kind of blurred out. So long exposure is really cool for lots of uses. Any others that we're going to have a look at? Let's have a look at this picture in Seville. So again, a crowd of people, you can see them down there. If we put this one on long exposure, you'll see basically anybody that's moving. I'm having trouble putting it on. Swipe up. So we can do the bounce. Let's have a look at what movement's actually happening. So just a tiny little movement, but you can see people walking around. You can see people who are very still, taking pictures. See these horses and carriages moving. See that waterfall, water fountain. If we put this on a long exposure, it'll calculate it. Again, we can see the movement that was happening down here. We can see the movement from the horses there, and anything else that's moving as well. So again, we get some really cool effects. I think you'll see a lot of photos like this coming out of iPhone, because this is really neat. And as we said, what's really neat about this is that traditionally you'd have to take photos like this in very, very low light conditions or in dark conditions. So you typically see certain kinds of photos, but this enables us to take a different kind of image that's not been very easy to take in the past. So I really, really like this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what other kinds of things they might put in, what other kinds of effects they might put in, and how we can use technology to do things we couldn't do before in photography, or how we can blur the lines further between video and photography, or videography and photography. So that's a little walk through there. One last thing I'm going to show you as well that I really like about this is how we can apply these features or apply these effects. So we've got some sea. Put on bounce. There we go. Put it on a long exposure, so actually this might look quite good to show some more of the detail in the water there. Maybe I want to see some reflections from the clouds. Let's put it on there. There we go. So again, different kind of effect. But what was really nice about this still is that we can still do all the editing that we would normally do if you use it built into the iPhone. Let's have a look. So I'm not really super familiar with iPhone's settings, so that's one thing. Make a few little quick changes. Add a bit of fade. Make it a bit more colourful. Not make it black and white. I want that colour there, and you can also apply the filters as you might do as well. So some of these are a bit overkill, to be honest, but let's go with dramatic. Maybe we'll also go back and edit it a little bit more. Anyway, we can save those changes to the colours. There we go. And we've got a live photo with the long exposure. And any changes I've made are still there, so it's on the loop again. Looks quite different actually, not on the long exposure. But yeah, we can do the full editing as well, which is really nice. Stick that on a loop, that one. I think sometimes if you click too quickly, it doesn't apply it. So there we go. So I hope you enjoyed that look at some of the new features. If you'd like to take a look at some of my photos from around the world, really active on Instagram. I'm at Evil Boris. Where am I? Over here. There we go. So come and have a look at some of my photos. You might recognise some of the locations from those live photos. But just being away again, so I'll have some new ones going out very shortly. But I hope you liked the video. I hope you like the new features in the iPhone. They're pretty cool. And I'll maybe see you again another time. Thanks. Bye.